the continuing story of Peyton Place. Starring Dorothy Malone as Constance Mackenzie, Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Ryan O'Neill as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson, Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington, Patricia Morrow as Rita Harrington, James Douglas as Stephen Cord. Peyton Place.
Dr. Michael Rossi, still deeply affected by the death of his fiancée, Ann Howard, has been summoned to the office of the Peyton County District Attorney, John Fowler. Dr. Rossi has found himself maneuvered by both Fowler and Stephen Cord, counsel for the defense of Lee Weber, accused of Ann's murder. Placed squarely in the middle, Dr. Rossi is an angry man.
Yes?
Dr. Rossi's here.
Oh, ask him to come in. I know you're very busy, Doctor.
Well, I am today.
But I have to have a few minutes of your time.
Well, I'm afraid all I have is a couple of minutes today.
I want to ask you some questions about Stephen Cord's relationship with Ann Howard.
All right, shoot.
How did they get along?
Well, I'd say before Ann found out that Stephen was her brother, they were friendly. And he seemed genuinely sympathetic towards her problems, and she trusted him.
And after they found out they were brother and sister?
Well, she was shocked to learn it, of course, like anyone would be.
Of course. Can you tell me anything about Ann's relationship with Mrs. Cord?
No, nothing at all. Look, what's the point of this?
Stephen subpoenaed his mother as a witness for the defense.
Well, that's strange, isn't it? How's this going to affect your case against Lee Weber?
I'm not sure. When's the last time you saw Stephen?
Well, it was at Ann's apartment.
Apartment?
What, a boarding house it was? Go on.
When was that?
It was the day after Ann's funeral.
What did he say about his sister's death?
He said he was afraid she might have committed suicide. And that's when my opinion of Mr. Cord changed. He knew as well as anyone did. Lee Weber had tormented her and threatened her. And what possessed him to take the defense of the man that killed him? Well, that's beside.
So you can't tell me anything at all about Ann's relationship with her mother?
No, nothing at all. As a matter of fact, the only time I was even present when they were together was at her funeral. Well, that was about par for the kind of break she always got in life. There they were, Ann and her mother and her brother, finally reunited at Ann's grave. Mrs. Cord was there. She was standing still and cold and kind of controlled, remarkably controlled, really, for a woman burying her own daughter. And Stephen was standing nearby. He didn't even look at her or try and touch her or anything. And I thought the death of Ann would bring them closer together, you know. They didn't even display any emotion or warmth or anything, even for the benefit of the rest of us.
Did you talk with Stephen after the funeral?
No, well, only at the rooming house. Is there going to be a problem with this case?
Oh, not that I know of. Have you ever discussed Ann's death with Mrs. Cord or Martin Peyton?
No.
Stephen ever talked about his father with you?
No.
Do you have any idea why he gave up doing the legal work for Mr. Peyton's mill?
No idea at all.
Well, thanks very much for your time, Doctor.
It's okay.
Now, if you should remember anything at all that might have some bearing on Stephen's attitude
Stephen? I mean, why Stephen? You keep asking the questions about Stephen. You're prosecuting Lee Weber for the murder of Ann Howard, aren't you? You're going to get a conviction, aren't you?
I'm sorry my questions have upset you.
Well, what about the answer?
The answer's yes, Dr. Rossi, as far as I can tell. Well, thanks very much for taking the time to see me. I'll see you in court.
get it.
Oh, hello, Doctor.
Hello, Ron. Your grandfather's expecting you.
Is there anything wrong?
No, just a routine check.
Stop badgering the doctor and let him come in.
Well, you can see there's nothing wrong with his disposition.
Isn't there something in the Hippocratic Oath about lying? I wasn't aware that I was expecting you.
I have some questions for you, Mr. Peyton.
Oh, heartbeat, pulse, respiratory?
Why did Stephen Cord subpoena his mother?
Where did you hear that?
The district attorney just told me.
I didn't realize that you and the district attorney conferred about such things.
He wants to know the reason behind the secret of the relationship between Stephen and Ann.
And did you supply the answers?
That's why I came to you.
There's some brandy in the cabinet. As long as my doctor isn't here, we can enjoy it in peace.
Mr. Peyton, Ann and I were going to get married.
Oh. Well, I sincerely regret your loss.
I don't want your regrets, Mr. Peyton, just your answers.
There are some glasses in the cabinet.
There's some missing pieces to the puzzle, Mr. Peyton. I have to have them. I came here to collect.
Not at this address. Take your righteous anger someplace else.
Did Ann Howard see her mother before she died?
I imagine so.
Well, there's someone in this house that knows for sure.
Oh, Doctor, you have a long walk. Mrs. Cord left for the airport some time ago. I'm afraid your timing along with Stevens is a trifle off. He may have issued a subpoena for Mrs. Cord, but I doubt if she'll be here to receive it.
Well, it's very convenient, isn't it? Now, just how long will she be gone?
Well, that's hard to say. She's on a combined business and vacation trip. You know, I have quite a few interests along the New England coast.
Well, she can't stay away forever.
Oh, she doesn't intend to.
Look, Mr. Peyton, this is just round one. I haven't come to a decision yet.
I thought you'd reached your decision. I thought you decided that Lee Weber killed your fiancée.
I did. Until I talked to you.
Well, that was fast. What did the good doctor want? This isn't your day for a checkup. Grandfather, I thought we were going to level with one another.
We are, Rodney.
Well, what did Dr. Rossi want?
It seems that in addition to having the eye of an eagle and the heart of a lion, he has the mind of a busybody. He felt it his duty to come here and inform me that Stephen had issued a subpoena for Mrs. Cord.
Why did Stephen do that?
That's what he wanted to know.
And you didn't tell him?
Stephen hasn't said a word to me. Therefore, I have nothing to tell the doctor. Or you.
Goodbye, Grandfather.
Got a hole in my right sock. You want to look at that, too? Guard.
Would you have the barber step in here?
Oh, now, wait a minute. I did my bit. Don't push your luck.
It's not my luck I'm worried about. It's your neck. I just want the judge to see how clean and innocent it is.
I'm practically bald right now.
You'll have enough left over to open up a wig factory.
You know what you are? You're sadistic. You like watching me sweat, don't you?
You have a plain tie?
What's wrong with this one? I like it.
It's just the sight of being acceptable. Like everything else about you, Lee.
Now, I don't want to look like every other creep in this stinking town.
You're going to wear a plain, dark tie.
Are you going to turn me into Rodney Harrington? America's little sweetheart? Don't fold that way.
You better learn.
Not a chance.
You know, you got a lot going for you, Lee. All of it bad. I'm going to pass a little something on to you, my mother told me, right before I went into court to defend Raj. She said I was my own worst enemy. But I had an arrogance about me that people in town wouldn't like, especially the people on the jury. And you know something? She was right. We're in the same pod, friend.
Why don't you bring some slides with your next lecture?
Everything about you makes most people want to take a swing. Your hair, your clothes, your motorcycle, but most of all, it's that built-in sneer. Now, like it or not, the minute you walk into that courtroom, you're on trial. A lot of people, including the judge, are going to make a decision on that first impression of you.
Back off, counselor.
We're going to give you a new image, Lee. Even if we have to use carbolic acid on the old one.
All for me, huh?
Just part of the service.
Well, does that service include a defense?
It usually does.
What about this time?
That's my problem.
Well, I've got a little stake in this, too, you know.
I thought we settled this. I lead, you follow.
Well, I'm still not quite sure where you're leading me, counselor.
Well, come along and find out. This is the last stop, Lee. When you walk out of this cell with me, you're on an express. And there's no way of getting off until we reach the end of the line. Now, how do you want it?
Well, if I had a choice, I'd give you an answer.
Well, thanks for the vote of confidence. I'm sure you won't disappoint me any more than I'll disappoint you. Sit down. You're about to get clipped.
Oh, hello, Mike.
Hi. I think we still have a few minutes. Well, I'm going to need them. There's going to be a few surprises in this hearing today. I just found out Stephen Court subpoenaed his mother.
Well, he tried to, but he didn't make it. I just came from the Peyton house.
Hannah Cord flew the coop. She hopped the first plane out of White River for points north.
Well, if she did, she has Stephen's subpoena for company.
No, that's what I'm telling you. I just talked to Peyton.
I just saw Goddard's report. That subpoena was signed, sealed, and delivered.
Well, then Mr. Peyton's in for a big jolt. I mean, he's sitting up there at that gilt-edged mansion, thinking that he and Hannah pulled the coup of the century. Now, why would she ignore that subpoena?
Well, we don't know that she has.
She's gone.
Well, what did Peyton say to you?
It's not what he said, it's what he didn't say. By the volume.
Well, you know, it's not strange that Hannah Cord was subpoenaed. After all, she was Ann's mother.
I know, that's what I expected Peyton to say, but he didn't. He just sat there and took the news and gave me his insincere regrets. Now, Stephen knows something. And they know that he knows. And that's why Hannah took the first plane to anywhere to keep from facing Stephen in court.
Lee Weber is on trial here, not Hannah Cord.
Elliot, when Ann told me the day of her death that she'd just learned she had a full-grown family she had never been allowed to know, she took it calmly. She seemed adjusted to it easily. And later on, when I talked to her on the phone that afternoon at the beach cottage, she seemed changed, distant, agitated. All right, now what made her change?
Lee Weber made her change. You know that as well as I do.
I don't know. I don't know. If Lee Weber didn't kill Ann, if Stephen was right and she committed suicide, then I didn't help her. I didn't mean enough to her.
And don't let Stephen's razzle-dazzle back you into a corner.
I don't know.
Well, this is a fine time to have doubts. You go on the stand today.
What better time for doubts?
Look.
Let's go.